We begin our report with sniping and discord in relations between the U.S. and Israel. 3 weeks ago, President Biden announced a roadmap to end the war in Gaza. Since then, Israel has accused the U.S. of withholding weapons. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has dissolved his war cabinet, and the White House has canceled a strategic meeting with Israeli officials. Members of the Biden administration were supposed to meet with Israeli representatives Thursday to discuss threats from Iran. The White House is frustrated over Netanyahu's social media post accusing the United States of pausing weapon shipments, something the administration denies. White House spokesperson John Kirby called the video perplexing. Netanyahu responded to that Thursday, saying, quote, "I am ready to suffer personal attacks provided that Israel receives from the United States the ammunition it needs in the war for its existence." Meanwhile, the United States is shifting military policy to accommodate another global conflict, the war in Ukraine. The White House says shipments of air defense missiles that were intended to go to other U.S. allies will now be redirected to Ukraine. Kirby calls it a difficult but necessary decision.
This will ensure that we'll be able to provide Ukraine with the missiles they need to maintain their stockpiles at a key moment in the war. If any of our other partners were ever in a situation similar to Ukraine's, we would go to extraordinary lengths to support their security as well.
CBS News national security correspondent David Martin joins me now. David, let's start with Ukraine. What do we know about the types of missiles that the U.S. is now fast-tracking to Ukraine?
Well, these are air defense missiles, and the most popularly known one is the Patriot air defense missile. And these are interceptor missiles used to shoot down incoming Russian missiles. And this is a very important move here because Russia was simply beginning to overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses with their attacks on Ukraine's cities. But by reordering the delivery of these air defense missiles, taking them away from other countries and putting Ukraine at the front of the line and putting this policy into effect for about a year and a half, this is going to mean hundreds of air defense missiles are going to go to Ukraine. And this is sort of a direct response to Vladimir Putin's long war strategy where he just wears down Ukraine. But this sort of almost guarantees that Ukraine will have sufficient air defenses at least to stay in the fight until next year.
Connected to that, we have this pact signed by Russia and North Korea, the Mutual Defense Pact that was signed. How much has North Korea helped Russia, and how much more might they be able to help them in this conflict?
Well, North Korea has just almost unlimited stocks of ammunition, artillery shells, and they have already shipped to Russia for use on the battlefield in Ukraine, what is by State Department count, 11,000 shipping containers full of ammunition. So North Korea has given Putin some badly needed short-term relief in weapons supplies and allowed Putin to keep the pressure on in Ukraine while he tries to gear up his own defense establishment to start turning out weapons to take the place of the sort of stopgap supplies coming from North Korea.
And now, David, I want to switch to the Israel-Hamas war. How far apart, before I ask you about the specific fight, how far apart is the U.S. and Israel when it comes to understanding the direction of this conflict, this fight against Hamas?
Well, I think the U.S. and Israel agree on one thing, that the fighting in Rafah is near its end, that there's not much left that Israel can do in Rafah. But where they are just miles apart is what happens next. Israel's objective is supposedly the destruction of Hamas. There are hundreds of surviving Hamas fighters. There are miles of unexplored tunnels, and their leader, Yahya Sinwar, is still at large. So Hamas has the ability to fight on. And if Israel just pulls out then it's the U.S. view that Hamas is just going to flow back in, and the cycle of this, what we used to call the never-ending war against terrorism, is just going to continue again in Gaza.
So finally, David, what do you make of this back and forth about whether U.S. Shipments to Israel have been slowed or not slowed? I mean, obviously there was that one shipment that was paused, but give me your take on that.
Well, what I'm told is that the Israeli military was complaining to Netanyahu that they weren't getting some of the consumables they needed, not big ticket items, but I'm talking about things like airplane spare parts that you need to keep your Air Force running on a day-to-day operation. And they were complaining that it seemed like the U.S. was slow rolling them. I'm told the U.S. was not slow rolling them, that the only shipment that has been in any way held up was that one shipment, and it literally was a shipment aboard a ship that was loading on the East Coast, bound for Israel, that contained I think it was 1,500, 2,000-pound bombs that the U.S. did not want to see Israel use in a populated area like Gaza. And as far as I know, since that shipment was paused, Israel has not used any 2,000-pound bombs in Gaza.
David Martin for us at the Pentagon. Thank you so much, David.